Pat Riley, the architect of Miami Heat culture, will be honored on Wednesday night as the hardwood floor of the Kaseya Center will be dedicated in his name. And to tell us about Pat's influence in Miami and the importance on his Hall of Fame career is Heat legend Alonzo Mourning in a very special episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com, here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. And the best way to support the show is to leave a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app and join more than 14,000 Locked On Heat lifers by subscribing on YouTube. Today's episode is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Heat opened their season on Wednesday. Hall of Famer, NBA champion, and Miami Heat legend Alonzo Mourning is here to talk with us about the organization honoring Pat Riley when they host the Magic on Wednesday night, which, of course, the same night that Pat Riley Court will be unveiled. Few people know Riley as well as you do, Zoe. Has he expressed to you what it means to have the court at Kaseya Center named after him?
No, we really hadn't talked about it, but I know how much it means to him, simply because, 30 years contributing to an organization the way he has, and he has pretty much put his heart and soul into building this culture, uplifting this franchise, this city, planting seeds in all the coaches and the players that have come through here. He has been the ultimate leader and the ultimate architect as it pertains to winning. And I'm blessed, man, to have been a part of that journey. I've known the man since 1995. Okay. And he brought me here in 95 and changed my life. And I'm sure this experience in Miami has definitely changed his for the better as well, So I'm very grateful for our relationship. I'm so happy for him. It's a well-deserved honor. It truly is. And I'm looking forward to celebrating him because he deserves it.
Well, you mentioned you were there from the beginning. You certainly were. You were traded from the Charlotte Hornets to the Miami Heat in 1995. Pat Riley's first major move. What do you remember about that trade? Kind of how did it go down? Did you get a call from Pat Riley? And then sort of after that, what were your first impressions as Pat as a coach?
Well, I never got a call. I knew there was some interest there. There were several other teams. There was Boston, there was LA, there was Indiana. And my agent said, look, there's Miami. So I did my due diligence. I spoke to John Thompson, then my college coach at the time, God rest his soul. And I spoke to my dear friend Patrick Ewing, who was coached by Pat Riley as well. And they both said, go to Miami. Go. They both told me, go to Miami. So that's all the information I needed, because these were two people that I trusted. And then when I got here, I didn't realize how my life was going to change for the better, but it did. He instilled professionalism, preparation, winning. I mean, you name it. Anything that it was about winning, he instilled it all in me. And I pretty much drank the Kool-Aid, man, and embodied whatever was important to him. I embraced it and I embodied it, and I tried to sell my teammates on it as well, just with my effort, my attitude, and things of that nature, which I think helped contribute to us to building the culture the way we did over the years.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, anybody who ever saw you in a Heat uniform knows that you were the embodiment of everything we heard about Pat Riley. But you had a pretty good career in Charlotte beforehand, and you
Right.
were on your way to accomplishing some great things. And it's
Right.
rare to hear a player, point to a coach and say that he was instrumental in your development. How much of a role did Riley actually help play in inspiring you to become the Hall of Famer that you eventually became?
Well, I mean, the coaching was elementary to him, but I think he has done what a lot of coaches really don't have the ability to do. And there was more of a psychological approach to the game, where he would just inspire the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And through that inspiration, obviously, there was a commitment to hard work and getting your body in top-notch condition, and he sold us all on that. But it was just the commitment to the game, not cheating the game, putting your heart and soul into it. And it didn't guarantee you anything, but if you didn't approach it that way, you just never stood a chance of winning. So he was, we trusted him. He was the ultimate architect as it pertains to, putting the right pieces together, and let's face it, man, Miami's not for everybody.
Yeah.
We saw this place chew people up and spit them out, because it was overwhelming to them and they wasn't ready to go down that road. But we saw guys that it was very beneficial to them in their careers where they came through here and they were listening to Pat and did what they asked him to do. And it totally revamped their careers. And I'm one of those people, I really am. And I'm very grateful. I really am. I'm very grateful that I was under his tutelage for as long as I have been, and I still am. Listening to him, spending time with him, in practices and at games, sitting next to him, just having that mentorship, it's just you can't put a price tag on it. You really can't. This man has been around the game for over 50 years. So he has a wealth of knowledge. And, when he speaks, I just shut up and listen.
This was a two-parter. Did you ever see a situation, and not having to name any names, where Riley just pushed somebody almost to like a breaking point? And then the second part is, what happened with Shaq that time? We've all heard the stories, but I want to hear it from you. When did you save Pat Riley's life when Shaq started going at Pat?
Hey, man, they're two alpha males,
But so are you. So are you.
Yeah,
You had to get in between those two.
But I just saw a disaster waiting to happen, so I just jumped in the middle of it. So it was kind of instinctual for me. It really was, But I mean, you had two individuals that they want to win, man, by any means necessary. So when you think of that, when you think of two individuals that want to win that bad, and Coach Riley, took the approach with us as players that, hey, the hardest thing to do is to get 15 guys to do what you ask them to do and to do it hard and to do it the right way. That's the hardest thing about coaching, to get guys to listen to you and do what you ask them to do. And when you lose that, that's when, teams fall apart, and you had these two alpha males going at it, man, and one was voicing his opinion and the other one was voicing his opinion, and it just didn't mix well at the time, and it created friction. And I just didn't like the direction it was going in, so I just jumped in the middle of it at the time.
Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return over on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And it's #1 for so many reasons. And, sometimes you're watching a game and you get a hunch right in the middle of it. And you want to check out some of the latest stats, or maybe you want to see some video live play-by-play. And there's so much more, and you can do that and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started today with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's just $5, and you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, but only when you visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to get started today. We'll be right back.
Can you set the scene then for our listeners who maybe don't know the story? Like, when was this? Was it during a practice, after a practice?
It was right on our practice court. It's right, our current practice court, and Coach is a vocal person.
Yeah.
And he told Shaq how he felt, and Shaq didn't like it, and there were some choice words, and then they went at it. So
Shaq cannot be an easy person to hold back from moving anywhere he wants to move. So
no, he was not an easy person. Trust me, I battled Shaq quite a bit over the years, So, and when we were teammates, our practices were brutal because we beat each other up, So, but the long and short of it is that they mended the relationship. There's a healthy respect for one another, and Shaq's jersey's in the rafters. Mm-hmm. So that should tell you a whole lot of how much respect we have for him and how much respect Riles has for him.
We've heard so many Pat Riley stories, dunking his head in ice water, the great speeches that he would give before.
That was my ice bucket. That was my.
He stole your ice bucket.
The bucket, it was in front of my locker.
So you had nowhere to soak your feet after.
Yeah, man, it was hilarious, man. Listen, that was an exciting time for us, because we were the first team. We were the first team in the league during the lockout season where we only had 50 games to play, so they had to stuff all these games in a short period of time. So we had back-to-backs. Mm-hmm. So we were the first team throughout that whole season that won 3 games in a row. And we were in Detroit, and we won that third game in a row, which was hard, man. We don't do that anymore. And to win 3 games in the league in a row like that, it was brutal. So we were the first team to do it. And Riles was so excited, and he came in the locker room and he stuck his head in the ice bucket. He said, and he came up, and his hair is all slicked back, and then the water flew back and everything. And we all looked at him, and he says, he's like, you gotta want to win like it's your last breath. like it's your last breath. And you know what? I understood the analogy, because that's how he coached.
Did you ever have a coach like that could provide that kind of inspiration? Because we hear stories like Riley, but Riley seems like he's just one of a kind when you tell those kinds of stories.
Exactly. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he very much so. Yeah. So we all jumped up and cheered and everything, but he knew how, to earn the trust of his guys, number one. And number two, we felt the deep passion of winning through his preparation, through his, how much he cared. We felt it, man. And he showed us on a regular basis, how bad he wanted to win. So it became infectious. It really did. We had some tough losses, some really deflating losses, especially against the Knicks during those years, but and like I said, Riles would always say, hard work doesn't guarantee you anything, but without it, you don't stand a chance. So we've always been an organization that were true advocates of committing to hard work and being in the best shape of our lives.
We're all familiar, obviously, with Riley's accomplishments and his on-court demeanor, but I remember hearing years ago from Sean Marks about how Riley was an influence on him as a member of like a front office because of his ability to connect with players on a personal level. Have you seen the same side of Pat over the course of your time working together?
Yeah. I mean, coach he's a walking inspiration, man. I mean, listen, he's inspired players to incorporate what they've learned from him in their business endeavors after their career. He's inspired players, to continue to take care of their bodies after their career. He's inspired players in coaching and management. I mean, he's just a walking inspiration. He really is, man. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's the Marlon Brando of basketball. He's a godfather. Yeah, he really is. And that's how people look at him. They look at him with a tremendous amount of respect and understanding that this man has left his mark on a game, and I would like to say that he is truly on the Mount Rushmore of coaches in basketball. Easy,
no doubt.
He's on that Mount Rushmore for sure. He's earned it.
We would love one more story before we let you go. What's one that maybe I'm sure you've probably told a whole lot of them, but what's one that you have to dig back and maybe you haven't told in a long time that you might want to share with us today? And it could be off the court, on the court, motivational speech, another dunking head in water type thing.
It's been so many. It's so many, but one that stands out the most is the relationship that we had, and the day it started. It didn't start the day he traded for me. It started after our first practice. It was the Palmetto Recreational Center where we practiced at. We didn't have a practice facility back then. We practiced at the Palmetto, where the gym in the Palmetto, the out of bounds was the wall. So it was like a dungeon. So as hard as we practiced, guys were running into walls, and there were no pads on the wall at all. It was brutal, But one day after practice, all the guys had left. And in the Palmetto, you were sharing, in the locker room, you were sharing with the people, all the people that worked out in the recreation center. So it was crazy how this franchise, where it started, and how through coach's influence, how it's grown to this, first class organization where everybody wants to come here and play now, not just because it's Miami, because of the winning culture, but the long and short of it is it was a brutal 3-hour plus practice. I was exhausted. And I told him, I looked at him, I said, man, you don't know me. I don't know you, you don't know me. So we sat on the floor. It was just him and I in the gym. Everybody else had gone. We just sat on the floor and we chopped it up, man. And we had a long, 2-hour conversation. I told him where I was from, my background, what I wanted out of this game. He shared with me his vision and everything, So I wish I could have that on video. I mean, that was a touching moment for me, because I think that was a moment where we really solidified a bond. And I made a commitment to him, basically. I'm ready to go. Whatever you need me to do, I'm here. I'm ready to go. So that's the one I remember the most.
You've shared so many great stories, and I'm sure you have 100 more, thousands more that you could share with us. We really do appreciate the time. If I don't ask you this now, though, I don't know that I'm going to get a chance to, and I would regret it. When you and Pat Riley are sitting there in the corner of Kaseya Center next to each other, watching these games, what are you talking about? Are you talking, you don't have to share the state secrets with us, but is it like X's and O's? Is it personnel stuff? Is it, hey, the popcorn was good today? What are we talking about?
Hey, man, when you watch as many games as combined that we've watched, literally on TV and in person and practices, the conversation is about nothing but basketball. It's about basketball. You know, that's what it's always about. You know, so and winning, obviously. What's it going to take to win the next one, and the next one, and the next one? That's what it's all about.
Alonzo Mourning, we really appreciate the time. I know we're all looking forward to October 23rd, Wednesday night, home opener against the Orlando Magic, when Pat Riley Court at Kaseya Center will be unveiled. Again, really appreciate the time and the stories today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Halloween lets us have fun with the things that scare us. My son, sometimes he pokes fun at some of the decorations that are around there. It's kind of like whistling past the graveyard, right? You want to be able to just say, you know what, I'm scared, but I'm not that scared. But you know what? Sometimes there are things that you do want to deal with. There are actual fears that you want to address. And therapy is a great tool for facing those fears and finding ways to overcome them. Because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing those fears in the first place and holding yourself back. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be nothing but convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And if you just fill out a brief questionnaire, in a matter of minutes, you'll get matched with a licensed therapist. And if you have to switch therapists at any time, you can do so for no additional charge. So overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today, and you get $10 off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. If you're new to us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on your favorite podcast app. We're excited to announce that we have launched a daily Locked On Heat newsletter, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up. You'll get a local team-centric story about the Miami Heat every day, a national story written by Katie Heindel, and on Thursdays, an X's and O's deep dive from Mike Shear, plus a fantasy basketball tip from the nation's #1 fantasy basketball expert, Josh Lloyd. Now is the perfect time to sign up as we launch this thing. Go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up. David, we just got done talking with Alonzo Mourning about his relationship and his history with Pat Riley. Pat Riley arrives to Miami as part of the Heat organization in 1995. Shortly thereafter, he trades from Alonzo Mourning. There was really nobody better to talk to than I guess Pat Riley himself, than Alonzo Mourning, about what it is that Pat Riley means to this organization. After the conversation, what is it that stood out to you about it?
Just the tone in which you talked about Pat. Like we know about Pat and the on-court presence, and he was always walking the sideline in his Armani suits, and that was kind of an image that he had already presented publicly. And it worked. It worked in Los Angeles, it worked in New York, and certainly it worked in Miami as well. But there was so much more to him. And nobody, as you said, could have summed it up better than somebody who's had such a long relationship and has been kind of the physical embodiment of the ethos that Riley brought to this organization. When he brought the idea of Heat culture and helped plant those seeds in 1995, he needs somebody like Alonzo Mourning to plow the fields and till them and to get those seeds planted. And it was the perfect connection between those two. And to hear Zoe talking about Pat and everything he's meant to him throughout his incredible Hall of Fame career, you don't get those kind of relationships between a player and coach. I don't think you will. I don't know that you can in today's game, because it's just different. Not only is just you have your business interests off the court, you have your brand that you develop. It seems like whether it's the media or whether it's somebody else, I think you're just kind of pitted versus a coach at some point. But to see the friendship, the relationship, the almost the brotherhood kind of blossom over the past 30 years between these two men that have helped define Heat culture, it was really impressive to hear from Zoe and to see that kind of expressed so colorfully.
Yeah, to your point, like absent even I mean, I guess it's all part and parcel of each other, but like players just don't spend that much time around their coaches anymore. You know, like the way that you did in the 90s, Alonzo Mourning talking about 3.5-hour practices. You don't have 3.5-hour practices anymore. You're not allowed to, right?
Coaches get fired after a couple of seasons too. It's not like you can have that kind of relationship the way they did. I mean, Pop is probably the last one. I would even say might be the last one.
Eric Spoelstra is not spending as much time with Jimmy Butler as Pat Riley was spending with Pat Riley. I mean, these guys were in the same hotels on the road, at the same dinners on the road. The business interests weren't such that these guys had board meetings of their businesses and their brands to get to in the middle of the afternoon. They also didn't know that taking care of your body was super important. By the way, it turns out that the 3-hour practices weren't super good for these players whose careers were like 8 to 10 years, you know? And so there is just like less time that these people spend with each other. And it was really cool to hear Alonzo Mourning talk about that relationship that he was able to have with Pat Riley at that time. And to hear those stories that he tells. And I think it's really important to get those stories, even though some of them, people may have heard before. And I think there was certainly some new stuff in that interview with him. But to retell those stories, I mean, that's basketball history. And I know for sure, for certain, that there's a lot of our listeners who had never heard some of those stories that maybe you and I had heard, because they might not even remember Alonzo Mourning playing. Heck, they might not even remember him playing in 2006 for that championship team. And so for younger people, that stuff is really important, because Pat Riley's name is going to be etched on that hardwood at Kaseya Center for longer than it's probably going to be called Kaseya Center. Right. And so to know why that's there, and to really understand, like, hey, we were practicing in high school gymnasiums and YMCAs and, 3-hour practices running into walls. Like, it's very different to think of the organization that it is now, which has become very much the standard, or one of the standard organizations in the NBA. And to think that that's happened over 35 years, really, and really started happening when Pat Riley got here, it does help put it all into context.
It's a great point, because I hadn't even considered that people might not understand the importance of Pat Riley. And it feels like a different era. And it's 30 years later, right? But at the time, like, there was no greater name in coaching. Phil Jackson was, coaching a mediocre Bulls team. Mediocre might be a little harsh, but he didn't have the same luster. And as is often the case, so much of his success had been tied to Michael Jordan. Jordan was out of the league. But in 1995, when he came here, it was almost the same thoroughfare as it was for Shaq's acquisition in 2004 or LeBron's acquisition in 2010. Like, the idea that one of the best, if not the best at the current time, head coach in the NBA wanted to come to this franchise that had so little identity and had achieved so little success, it was incredible. And it set the tone, because all of a sudden you were transformed from this fledgling organization in 1989 that had no identity, that had started chipping and started kind of building something, but nothing really took. And then all of a sudden the bar was raised considerably. And part of that was acquiring Alonzo Mourning and promising a championship down Biscayne Boulevard and making good on those promises. So it's incredible to think that somebody doesn't understand the significance of it. But to hear Alonzo Mourning, a man who's been part of basketball for 30 plus years, that has played for a Hall of Fame coach collegiately in John Thompson, who he referenced in his interview, but to hear him talk about the importance of Pat Riley on his career, on everything he's done, and his importance in Heat culture and helping to define that. That's truly remarkable. What a conversation. I feel so lucky to have had it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure I thought we were going to ever do a podcast with Alonzo Mourning.
No.
And only because the Heat, the executives don't talk, right? It's the same line. Eric Spoelstra is the voice of the organization, and he's going to talk, and Pat Riley has his 1 or 2 media sessions a year, and that's really it. And you don't hear from the Arisons. You don't hear from Andy Ellisberg, in terms of he's not doing a podcast. Adam Simon, these guys. But Alonzo Mourning told us basically before we really started the interview, yeah, for Pat Riley, this will be the easiest podcast I'll ever do. And so it was really cool to have this excuse, I suppose, to talk with him. I have a crazy Pat Riley stat. It is a little dated, but from 1957 to 2014, so that's the dated part.
Okay.
There were 57 NBA finals. Red Auerbach, Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, and Greg Popovich won 43 of them.
Won 43 of 57?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That's crazy.
I know Auerbach was
there.
I know Auerbach was there for like 9 of those Celtics ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that
Phil Jackson
Riley
had the Lakers and the Bulls. And Popovich
so that's
Spurs.
8. Oh no, because he had the three-peat. So that was 11 of those. So that's 19. Popovich 5. So that's 24. That numbers can't be right. That feels impossible to think about that. Well, maybe as an executive, because Auerbach was
an executive, player, coach, and executive. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Because Auerbach was in the Celtics front office, but Riley is a front office exec here with the Big 3 era. That's the 2 more rings like that. I mean, what an incredible number! Incredible, like that.
You can't
he
tell
is such
the
an
history of the.
Yeah,
you can't tell the history of the league without Pat Riley, and I'm not the first person to say that. So,
no,
considering what he means to the Lakers organization, to a lesser degree to the Knicks organization, but still was a fundamental part of that
I were to go there.
A fundamental part of their history. I think that's fair to say. Like, but for better or worse, Knicks history isn't Knicks history without Pat Riley.
I'm trying to forget it, but yeah.
The fact that I don't think you would associate Pat Riley with anybody but the Miami Heat at this point, which feels crazy considering what he meant to those Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
No, yeah, 100%. 100%. It's just a passage of time. Like for Magic and James Worthy, et cetera, like that, Kareem, like they probably would have a different answer.
And that documentary maybe has resuscitated some of that interest in his Lakers era. But I think wholly, all in all, the Miami Heat are Pat Riley's team.
Yeah, but you know what? Now even thinking about it, like I wonder how many people associate Pat as the coach. Like it's great that we're still hearing players like Jimmy and others, older ones, I would say, refer to him as a coach,
Coach Pat,
et cetera. But like, I don't think Jaime does it, and he grew up in LA. I don't think Nico does it. You just say, "Oh, Pat Riley," you know, something like that. Like they just know him as
he's not the coach. He's not he's not the general manager anymore either. He is the Godfather, right? Like he's kind of earned his own title. Like, and that's not me saying that out of like hyperbole. Like players will call him, "Oh, that's the Godfather. That's the Godfather." Yeah. He's kind of created his own title.
Yeah.
What a great title, man. Can I be the Godfather of Locked On Heat? I don't know. Like what can I be the Godfather of? That's crazy.
That's a tricky one. That's a tricky
you don't
one.
get that. You don't. Not everybody can get it. Is the point I say.
Even Alonzo referenced him as the Godfather. You know,
Marlon Brando of the NBA. That was a great line.
Yeah, impressive stuff. Yeah, great conversation. Important to kind of understand this. Like, this isn't just some symbolic gesture. Like, there is symbolism to this, but there is the real impact that Riley had over this organization that continues to have, to define everything about this team and the way that they approach everything. Like, I know it's become cliche to refer to Heat culture and overly simplified, but nobody has helped define a team more than Pat Riley has. And yes, maybe he wouldn't have achieved the success without Zoe, without Shaq, without Dwayne, LeBron, etc. But, you know, I don't know that you get those players either without Pat already being part of the organization. So it's a symbiotic relationship, sure, but you can't look at the success the players have had without recognizing the greatness of Pat Riley and his impact on this team.
Let us know what your favorite part of the interview was in the comments on YouTube, on Twitter at Locked On Heat, on Instagram at Locked On Heat. Let us know if you have any questions about Pat Riley's history with the Heat organization, or Alonzo Mourning's history, if any of that kind of stuff came up. Let us know in the comments. But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.